down into the depths of the pyramid, but the staircase was completely filled in with rubble of small stones and dirt. It took him 4 years to slowly excavate step by step down the pyramid until he finally came to the tomb of Lord Pakal and the giant sarcophagus and lid that the pyramid were built around.
Arguably, the most remarkable Mayan artifact ever found, the stone sarcophagus lid of King Pakal, has produced considerable controversy. Mainstream scholars believe the depiction is of King Pakal on a journey to the underworld. But ancient astronaut theorists believe the king is portrayed seated at the controls of a spacecraft and have dubbed him the Palenque astronaut.
He appears to be going into space. He's the original rocket man. They're manipulating his spacecraft going into space.
We have maintained for a very long time that the depiction here is of King Pakal sitting in some type of a spacecraft, because he is at an angle like modern-day astronauts upon liftoff. He's manipulating some controls right here. He has some type of a breathing apparatus or some type of a telescope in front of his face. His feet are on some type of a pedal. And down here, you have something that looks like an exhaust with flames.
In 2011, the strange carving on King Pakal's sarcophagus lid was translated into a 3D replica by model maker Paul Francis.
When I saw this, I instantly said, there's a guy in a space capsule. You know, it doesn't need to be spelled out for me. I don't have to find anything. It was already there. It was carved many, many years ago.
I think this is absolutely extraordinary, because this is definitely one of the most compelling pieces in the ancient astronaut theory. And to finally see Pakal as a 3D sculpture, to me, is a dream come true. For the longest time, we have said that what is on this Pakal lid is not something symbolic. It was something that the artist saw or was told about, and then he or she tried to recreate this on a slab. I love the craftsmanship. I love how you know, at the bottom of the Palenque slab, you see something like the flames.
It looks like fire.
Exactly.
And I had to do a little interpretive. I put engine bells on instead of the flame, but that's the thruster stage.
I also love the detail that you have underneath his right foot, where his foot is resting on a pedestal. And that is exactly what we can see on the Palenque slab, and how his hands are manipulating some controls. And also this kind of breathing apparatus that's going on in front of his nose.
The breathing apparatus is actually a very neat piece. It's called the giver of life. The soul transfers through this. And a giver of life to me would be air. I mean, we breathe air. This is a guy who needs this mass to survive.
Because where is he?
Outer space.
Could the carving on the sarcophagus lid of King Pakal really provide confirmation of the complicity between Maya rulers and extraterrestrial forces, as ancient astronaut theorists believe? Perhaps further evidence can be found, etched in stone throughout Mesoamerica. The Palace of Palenque. Discovered in the late 18th century by Spanish explorers, this royal compound is the largest and most complex of those found in the ancient city. Researchers believe A 4-story tower in the middle of the palace was built so Mayan kings and priests could observe the celestial movement of the sun and stars.
This is the main palace here at Palenque, and one of the unusual features is this observatory, a huge tower to watch the stars. Also throughout the palace are these unusual T-shaped windows, and they've baffled archaeologists for centuries. It's thought that perhaps they represent the wind god. But it's also possible that these T-shaped windows are pointing to the sky. What was it that the rulers of Palenque were looking for?
The tower at the Palace of Palenque is just one of many celestial observatories built throughout the ancient Maya territories.
Their practical system of astronomy was an observational one. And so the design and the construction of a lot of buildings was intended to create these sight lines, to create these vantages for observation, to see and mark important astronomical events.
We see that temples were aligned to specific moments in time, and the equinoxes and the solstices are the most important moments in time. So wherever we look, we see how this knowledge of astronomy is incorporated into these monuments.
Plazas were great places where people stood and paid reverence to particular times of the year. These were places that were aligned from time immemorial, hundreds and hundreds of years, to make these specific observations.
But what, or perhaps who, were the Maya looking for in the sky? According to ancient astronaut theorists, the answer can be found carved in stone.
In Quirigua, Guatemala, there is a national park featuring zoomorphs. Zoomorphs are these giant boulders that were carved into different shapes. Some of them depict crocodiles, some of them depict turtles. But at the same time, the carvings are very reminiscent of something technological in nature. In fact, there is one boulder that we can see where this guy is essentially sitting inside some type of cockpit. Is it possible that this is nothing else but an artist's rendering of something that they didn't understand because their technological frame of reference was less advanced than our technological frame of reference we have today?
In the present-day Mexican state of Tabasco, near the Gulf of Mexico, lie the ruins of a ceremonial center called La Venta. Here, in 1862, oil riggers discovered 4 very large stone heads in the Olmec area of Mesoamerica. Since then, archaeologists have unearthed 13 more similar sculptures that were carved as early as 850 BC. Known as the colossal heads, scholars believe they depict the Olmecs, an ancient civilization that many consider to be the ancestors of the Maya.
One of the most striking aspects of Olmec art and archaeology are these colossal head sculptures. And one of the hypotheses that's been put out to explain these is that they were portraits of important rulers, kings, shamans, important people in their society.
But ancient astronaut theorists contend the mysterious stone statues are proof of extraterrestrial intervention in the distant past.
Man hatte im Olmekengebiet riesige
Huge stone heads were found in the Olmec area, which were beautifully made, but then ritually buried. One asks, what is that? Are these heads of rulers or priests? Or were they maybe aliens that they wanted to portray because they had unusual facial features?
These guys are often wearing strange helmets, and they look to be foreigners. They appear to be from Africa and the Middle East and other areas like that. So what are they doing here in Central America? You have this curious mix of different racial